Or if you believe the ramping values which have the reasonable chance of being implemented with at least approximately actual casino, consider the two-deck game spread 1 to 5 with a minimum wager 1 unit of the maximum 5 units of the between, and they are simulation of the wagers rise line within proportional expectation, running count with a ram factor of the chosen 3. In a nutshell, this means that we try to theoretically bet 3 times the prevailing expectation estimated for the present knockout running count. For example, the expectation of 1.0% would be likely to bet 3 units for the exemption, reside at the 1.67, who want to bet more than 5 units. So we stop at the 5 cents for the ceiling. When the expectation falls below 0.3 plasma 383%, we are where we want to be less than 1 unit. We make the 1 unit bet since this is our floor with a minimum bench swing of the 2-deck game with a maximum wager roughly 2/3 of the time and the maximum wager about 15% of the time. Average wagers of the 2-deck benchmark is roughly 2 units. In the real world conditions, you're not allowed to bet fractions of the dollar. Therefore, specifically in the Jura spreads have been determined to keep bet sizing different counts for analyzing completing knockout preferred counting system. The betting schemes are used to portray below each file with a closely theoretical benchmarks outline. Your running count of 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a bet 1 to 1, 2 to 4, and 5. 2 decks betting progression 2, running count 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 decks. 6 decks, running from -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, +1, 0, +2, +3, +4. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. 8 decks betting progression number 8. -7, 1, -6, 2, -5, 2, -4, 2, -3, 2, 3. -2, 4, -1, 0, -0, 6, -1, 7, -2, 8, +3, 9, +4, 10. Alright, the knockout preferred expectation. We can now get a handle of the expectation applying the complete knockout preferred system is important. The real life is not applied with is not an apple-to-apple comparison with a knockout rookie and knockout preferred strategy, whose derivation of the expectations were based on a 2-bet small, big, and jump of the spread. But because of the complete knockout preferred derivation is based on proportional betting approach for the intermediate betting value that conform to our benchmark betting scheme. A comparison of these returns, those in the table over the page 90 reveal that they slight gain in expectation accepted with the 8-deck game for implementation proportional wagering expectation and percentage of complete knockout preferred decks 1 to 5, 1 to 10 scheme. The primary benefit of the techniques, however, the related risk of the proportional approach conforms closely with the Kelly wagering. The graduate increases will also provide a little more complete output with the drastic variation jump spread, and also the integer spread performs almost identically, so the full fraction betting scheme. Essential best theoretical result of the returns of the full fractional approach of 1, 2, 6, and 8 decks are 1.53, 1.14, 7.73, and 0.54 respectively. The result based on Monte Carlo situations have associated error roughly at 0.100%. Full fractional betting is applied with the comparison on Appendix 3. Practical betting schemes. Any betting scheme, the pattern after a benchmark will produce the expectations limited portrayed here. You can therefore create a model that easily implement, formulate practical betting scheme with a suitable real-world applications will be bound with the 2 overriding concerns. First, we need to be aware of the key count, as well as we learned in Chapter 5 of the sense of being increasing our wagers at once running account is equal to the key count. Second, we are likely the ceiling maximum bet be able to pivot the point with no advantage is nearly +2%. And between the key count and the pivot point with the wagers can be made in a manner that is slung with a generally increase with the running count increase. Your betting scheme does not have to be overly rigid. However, the 2-deck schedule, you can go from 2 units as the key units to 5 units at a pivot point, floating randomly from 3 to 4 units in between, giving up the peripheral betting schemes limited to only where your imagination, but you think you get the way with it as long as you have the proper size bankroll to support it. It's always most important to pick the betting spread or ramp that you and your bankroll can live with. Risk of ruin. There's common and permanent misconception of the card counters always win. Over a short period, especially for the days and weeks, even with a couple of months, it's not given that a skilled card counter will be ahead. In fact, the card counter could well be behind. What is true with the given sufficient time of the sufficient bankroll of the card counter will eventually turn his fortune around and show the profit. This becomes when it comes close to the mathematical certainty longer than counter plays. Let's go back and short with the run, however, which equate in another story. Let's say we were playing 2-deck games spreading at 1 to 5 units regardless of the current bankroll using top 16 play with the knockout preferred matrix strategic decision. You will play the either doubling our bankroll going broke now suppressing large our bankroll to make certain that as well we will succeed. Consider figure 7 to demonstrate the effect. Note that the risk of the ruin drops substantially initially the bankroll increases, so the starting bankroll in units, chances of ruin. For example, the starting bankroll is 25 units. That spread with a 1 to 5, but the chance of success is about 53% of it. As you sit down with the second 2-deck table, is for $25 and spread with a 1 to 5, but alternately buy for 500 while spreading 200 to 100. While using preferred system, you will have about 47% chance of going broke before doubling your money. On the other hand, if you start 100 units, your chance of failure fails to be 36%. Indeed, nose drive with more than 0.5% if you start 1,000 units, and nearly 0% of the bankroll greater than 1,500 units. And then it shows the figure 8 depicts the average number of the hands needed to double the bankroll. For example, the average number of the hands needed to successfully double the bankroll. The occasional success is only 100 within a starting bankroll of 25 units. Average total rise rapidly approaching 1,400 hands for an initial bankroll of 100 units, and more than 2,100 hands for the bankroll of 500 units. Let's go back. For example, for the initial bankroll of 1,100 units, we know that we have a 99.95 chance of doubling the bank, which seems conservatively enough, but how long will it take? The chart tells us whether taking advantage. Roughly 45,000 hands played in the brisk rate with 100 hands per hour to 450 hours of play. Do you have the time to play patient for this, or if you're not, you will not make some of the adjustments in your goal. The will correlate with the trade-off between the risk and challenge for the patient. With the quicker success comes with the expense of the more risk. Therefore, the happy medium, well, up to them. It's up to you. Them. Let's just say that. Alright, or if we, even less than patient, we choose $25, 125 spread, which means that the starting with the bankroll equals 200 units. Now for our chain, the doubling is only 75% for the average doubling of the time failed with only 45 hours. Trade-off benefit between risk and time involved the opposite. You can figure 7 and 8 the gauge for the trade with the larger initial starting bankroll relatively to the bet you spread. The most assured of the will be continually winning. However, the more risk averse as you are, longer it will take to reach your objective. Fab 5's custom counting. Of course, with the game of the customize your count. Here's an example of the customization will count. We call it the Fab 5s. The strategy Fab 5s is a 6-deck customized knockout strategy with a modified intentional running count, but it adds something new, a rounded preferred matrix. For example, the 5/5s will issue with an initial running count of -5, making pivot point 21. For the strategy decision, we substitute 20 plus 20 for A and plus 15 for B on the strategy matrix. We take an insurance deposit on 20. You may have noticed that you have substituting 21 for A and 21 for A and 13 for B. However, we have taken the liberty to further adjust the preferred matrix entries for easier memorization. Based on the state of the appendix file, we know that we will have only tiny effect of the overall expectation. Designation preferred 6-deck matrix will ignore 6 value, refer to the basic strategy. Staying with the 5 things, we ramp up our bet, but when we have the advantage starting at the 15 plus, we make our bet max bet at 20 plus bet earlier in the benchmark. The advantage of the counting scheme is all matrix played with the critical betting in the count is now divisible by 5. Despite the rounding, our simulation show the power of the Fab 5's variation is nearly the same as the standard preferred 6-deck approach in Appendix 8. Summary: betting proficiency of the most important element playing in the winning blackjack, while growth of variation based on the key count produces the player advantage. More finally, tuned betting scheme based on the pivot the pound will enhance the result. Proportional key, Kelly wagering and modified proportional wagering, producing a test result of both increased expectation, limiting risk, limit risk of the ruin. There is trade-off between the rate which expect the win you tolerate and the risk you have to tailor the better strategy to match your goals and your bankroll. Look back at the expectation different inclinations. The knockout system provides graphic looking at the game for the adding each enhancement. Chapter 8, Enhancing Profits.